Hi and welcome back to the Paperless Movement YouTube channel. I'm Tom Solid and I help you to go from struggling paperless pioneer to a highly productive pro. How I do this on a daily basis, I will tell you today. I will show you my favorite productivity tools that I use on a daily basis in my business, in my private life, and I will explain you exactly why I'm using them and how I'm using them. So you will see why I picked these tools. But maybe these tools are not good for you. Maybe they don't work with your workflows you have in place and so on. So that's really important to understand when you're watching all these videos about 10 best productivity tools, 10 best note-taking apps and so on. Sorry, you have only one note-taking app that works best for your case. It makes absolutely no sense to have 10 best note-taking apps on your iPad and using them all at once. You have to settle down on one, and that's what I actually showed you. If you're one of my Inner Circle members, you might have seen the recent productivity guide that I published about single source of truth, in which I explain exactly why you need these single source of truth to really have the information on one place. So how can I say now I have 10 different productivity tools that I can show you? Tom, why do you have so many different productivity tools then? I can tell you exactly. You can have different apps for different purposes and still have a single source of truth. And how this works, I tell you now. After the intro, let's roll it. So before I start, we have to figure out one thing. What does productivity actually mean? What does a productivity tool actually mean? What is it? Well, if you think about productivity, it comes from producing. That's what comes out in the end of all your supply chain and so on. The more you produce, the more productive you are. And then we have the efficiency that makes things faster, you increase indirectly the productivity and so on. If you want to learn more about this, and if you're one of my Inner Circle members, there's another productivity guide. I go into detail what is the difference between efficiency, effectiveness and productivity. Check it out to learn more about this. But I just want to point out here that we have to rip apart this productivity tools thing to understand better what tools I actually use. And to understand this, I made different sections on the paperless movement. If you're on my website, you will find 5 different sections, which is digital note-taking, document management, knowledge management, task management, and workflow automation. And these are the 5 categories we are talking in the forums. If I'm on a webinar, this is what I'm focusing on. These are 5 categories. And all of these 5 go into the umbrella productivity. All right? So let's just start with digital note-taking. So for digital note-taking, I have one tool that I really prefer, and this is NoteShelf. If you follow this channel, you know that I reviewed loads of different note-taking apps, and 3 note-taking apps pop all the time up, which is Notability, GoodNotes, NoteShelf, and I settled down on NoteShelf for one simple reason. My digital journal works best in NoteShelf. It has the best functionality to use a digital journal in there or digital planner and so on, especially the way you navigate in your digital journal inside NoteShelf, because you simply can tap with your Apple Pencil onto the different hyperlinks to jump to the different pages with no hassle. In GoodNotes, you have to have a workaround where you pick a tool that allows you to actually tap the hyperlinks. For me personally, this is the reason why I'm using NoteShelf. If you're doing a different way of note-taking and so on, certainly Notability, GoodNotes, they have advantages over NoteShelf as well. I'm just saying what I'm using here. And there are loads of different tools as well. Like for example, Zoom Notes, that really underestimated because there are loads of different options that you can pick there. They have layers, you can import videos and things like this. The struggle there is, it is just not nice to look at. The user experience in general is really bad in Zoom Notes, and I'm really hoping they will rework the whole interface there, because there's anything you can wish of your note-taking app should have already available in Zoom Notes, but it's just too hard to find in there. So just quick overview of note-taking as NoteShelf is the one that I use. Next section is document management. All right, so document management, if you follow this channel, you might have seen the video where I was talking about the iX500 from Fujitsu. That was a document scanner I was using for years, and it was directly uploading the documents into the cloud. And where into the cloud? Into Evernote. And in Evernote, I was using Filterize, an automation plugin, or I don't know how you want to call it, that actually automates organization of your documents inside Evernote. And this was the setup I had previously until Fujitsu published a new scanner and stopped support of the old iX500. And luckily, at the same time, Raven Scanner was published, which is here on the back. All right. So you might have seen the videos I made about this and why this, in my opinion, is the best scanner, document scanner, if you have to scan a lot of documents, that you can actually have. Simple to explain why. I don't need a computer anymore. I don't even need an iPhone or whatever to set this up. You just switch it on, you can log in there, and then you have everything ready. You can scan it to the cloud. So many places you can scan it to your own NAS, to your computer. You can use it with a computer as well. And they have their own cloud, which is free for right now, the Raven Cloud. And you have OCR there and organization and so on. So right now you can scan into different places at the same time. So I set Evernote, so I'm not losing my old connection. I set up G Drive to have it there because my whole business runs in G Suite. We come to this later. And I scan it directly to Raven Cloud. Okay, talking about single source of truth, this is stupid to do, obviously, because I have the same document on 3 different places, but I'm not fully figured out what cloud I really want to use. I'm really keen what Raven Cloud will deliver in the future. And I think the best search functionality has now G Drive, because actually you have the Google search functionality, and G Drive also makes OCR of your documents that you scan in there, and it is really nice to search in there. And in fact, Evernote uses the same search engine as Google and also the same servers from Google. So this is where I'm really struggling, and Evernote became really bad in the past. So that's the reason why I'm using Evernote less and less. However, I know there's a big beta program starting now for Evernote, and there's a lot of changes coming to Evernote, and I wish it to you, Evernote, to get back on track and deliver what we actually need, which is, first of all, a consistent UI over all the different devices. You know, I don't want to start and go to my iPhone and relearn the same tool that I'm using on a desktop. That's the first thing. And as long all these different things are going on right now, I just scan into these 3 different places. And my main access right now to my documents, I'm going on G Drive. So that's what I'm doing there. So that's for document management. Obviously, there are way more different things you can consider, like folder structures and all this. This would just go too deep in this video. If you want to learn more about this, subscribe to this channel. I will talk about this. Come into the forums of the Paperless Movement forums. We can discuss it there. But for today, this is just too much. Let's go to knowledge management. What is knowledge management? I think I make it easy for me to understand this, and I want to deliver this to you as well. We have the digital note-taking, we have the document management, and for me, this is the input. That's what you bring into our systems, okay? We're taking notes, we're scanning documents, and it's now in a system of our life, of our job, and so on. And knowledge management is how we actually handle all this stuff. How do we access the stuff? How we easily find things? How to work properly with the information that we collect. And the real issue is nowadays that we have such a flood of information on a daily basis. And it is so easy to collect all the information that we really have to have systems in place. Like, you know, you heard about second brain and things like this. To really organize and access this information, and also verify if it is even needed to keep the information longer term, maybe it's just short term. That's what I understand by knowledge management. And also knowledge management to me is mind mapping. And when it comes to mind mapping, I was looking a long time for so many different tools, and I really struggled to find a proper mind mapping tool. And I showed you this in a different video already, where I set the conventions that I set in place, what I expect from a mind mapping tool I should be able to do with it. These things are really crucial to have, such as Apple Pencil support, for example. There are loads of different iPad mind mapping tools like MindNote and all these. Even Graphio is a mind mapping tool that you can use. It is built for the Apple Pencil more or less, but it is not intuitive enough. And Miro really does a great job there. It is not built for the iPad, but they have a great Apple Pencil support. And I heard from some of you that you're not happy about the Apple Pencil support in there. I am. It is good enough to work things down. The only thing that I wish Miro would do is adding OCR, so I would be able to write things down easily, and convert it into text like I can do in Notepad, for example. And this is not in place yet. I hope it will come. On the other hand, with the new iPad OS 14, we will have the new Scribble feature, which will allow us to write directly handwritten text that converts on the fly into written text. And this is already possible. If you follow me on Instagram or on Twitter, you might have seen the short videos that I showed you where I do exactly this. It works really great already in the beta, and I hope the Scribble feature will really replace a lot of missing features in many different apps that we can use now with the Apple Pencil. But it's not the only thing. Miro is really pretty easy to understand and to learn, even without reading any manual. If you are used to use more complex software like Photoshop, Adobe Premiere and things like this, or Microsoft Word, things like this, where you also use the shortcuts in there, it's easy to understand how to use Miro. But it goes much deeper what you can actually do in Miro to don't get interrupted in your creative process. And now we come to the point. You figured it out by now. Miro is the to-go tool for me when it comes to mind mapping. And mind mapping might be not the right word. If you're one of my Inner Circle members and you watched the webinar, the live webinar I gave about how I do mind mapping in Miro, you might know what I'm talking about, creative research. When I start researching about a topic or something like this, I need a place where I can throw everything in, but get it visually presented, okay? So besides Miro, and we come to this in a moment, but just mentioning it here, besides Miro, I'm using Roam Research as well. It is an awesome tool. It builds up your second brain automatically. In the background, while you're taking those notes, you will get connections between the different notes, but it is not visually pleasing. All right, so when I have a creative research thing going on, I need to have the different pictures in place, videos in place, and things like this. And I will talk about this much more deeper on this channel about Miro. I will provide new online courses coming out now. And as usual, if you're an Inner Circle member, you will have free access to all of this. All right, so Miro is my go-to mind mapping tool that allows you really to intuitively use mind mapping and build mind maps on, and that's an important thing that I forgot to mention in the beginning of the video. Integration is key. Using this app on any device I like, because I'm on Windows, I'm also on Mac, I'm on my iPhone. If I have ideas, I want to have a place where I easily can access all of my information. So Roam Research is not natively available on these devices, but they really do a great job to access Roam in the same way as I would do on a desktop. I can just open up Roam on my iPad and it is there and looks the same as it is on desktop. It is a bit harder to handle, and I really hope they publish a great app about this. However, this is something I can work around. So that's why I think the most important thing a tool should have is web access. Okay, I need a tool which I can access from any place I want. And going back to the digital note-taking thing, that's really something the note-taking apps are struggling. They have their own file format. I can't share it between the different note-taking apps, only by exporting it to PDF and giving it to somebody else. That's really hard, and I think the note-taking apps are still struggling. I'm talking about these handwriting iPad note-taking apps that everybody uses on their iPads. You obviously can do note-taking on other tools like Evernote, Roam Research, and so on as well. But I'm talking about these handwriting note-taking apps, and there's really hard to access your notes on any device you like. For example, in GoodNotes, you have the option to auto backup your notes into the cloud, and then you have a PDF that automatically updates as soon you write something into your notes, and NoteShelf now has this as well. And this allows you to access at least the PDF of your notes from a different device, and you can read through it. However, you can't edit it. And it's also the limitation with collaboration. So in these regards, Apple's own Note app does a better job with collaboration and all this than all the paid apps right now. But that's also why I'm mentioning it this now. When we talk about knowledge management, it's the same thing. We bringing information into our note-taking app, and then it's hard to get everything to connect it. All right, I make a note into the note shelf, and then it's hard to get a link or something that points me to this note. So this comes now to Notion. Why I'm saying this makes sense to use Notion now. And you might think, oh my God, this guy is using really a lot of tools. Yes, I am. And as you might have seen, Miro is not only for mind mapping, it is for so many other things. Others do project management, task management, also all of this in Miro. I'm using Miro only for mind mapping and creative research. But I have Notion, on the other hand, to write my wikis, to write my work instructions and all this in my team or for clients. I suggest this as well. If you have a team, you really need to have instructions in place how people work, so there is no confusion that what was said and what should be done and all this. So Notion does really a great job to allow you this, to add videos, short screen recordings and all this. And I recommend this all the time. Don't give people a wall of text that they should work from. Give them a short video, talking to them or giving them a screen recording and so on. It's so much easier to understand, or even GIFs. It's so easy nowadays to create GIFs to explain certain short work steps. And that's where I use Notion, and I love this Notion for this. I also use Notion for all my travel organization and to plan out the whole year and all this. The struggles I had there was that there's no offline access. And you thought it may be already when I was talking about Miro. Offline access is really an issue for these apps. If you don't have internet access, you can't access your boards and all this. So I know Notion is working on an offline access feature. I hope so, because I don't need access to all my notes. That's not the issue. Maybe I want to pick certain notes that I say, okay, I need this note to be downloaded all the time and accessible all the time. For example, when I put my flight tickets, other information in there, or taxi driver and so on, to tell them where to go to. I don't want to be limited by the internet connection, and that's why I really need offline access to these things. And it would be also great to have this on Miro, but this is not such a big issue for me, because usually when I'm using Miro, I'm on my desk and doing heavy research and things like this. And once I figured out concepts and all this inside Miro, I will bring it back into Notion, where I write everything down and bring everything structured in there. And the great thing is now that Notion actually integrates with Miro perfectly, because you have a native integration with Miro where you simply can embed your mind maps and whatever you have in Miro inside Notion. So when I build up the structure inside Notion, on top I usually have a Miro map or something that relates to what I was working there. On the other hand, again, and now I'm jumping back and forth here, but I hope you can follow me, because it's so important to understand for NoteShelf, again, for GoodNotes and so on. There is no backlinking. There's no link that I could click in a different software that would just open NoteShelf and opens the note I was writing there. And I think that's really a missing piece there. And I can do this with Notion. I could be inside Miro and have a link there that goes back to the page on Notion, and I see directly where this is. So I hope you see how everything starts to work together. Roam research I also use for general research. All right, when I get some information, when, for example, while using all these apps, I learn everything on a daily basis. I figure out one piece there, I figure out one piece there, and that's when I go to Roam research and write it down there, because I just have to put in, for example, Miro. The page opens up, I add it there, done. Why in Notion and in Evernote and so on, I have to set these links manually. In Roam Research, I just have to, hashtag and start writing any page or any word, and it comes up if there is already a page available. You click on it and it is already connected. So this really is this thing in Roam Research I think everybody likes about that it is so easy and so indirect, this building up the second brain and get all the connections between the different informations you put into there. And that's why I started also using Roam Research and putting things in there. Maybe I learn about, read a new book and there was something mentioned, and then later on I read something else that mentions the same thing, and boom, it's connected. So again, talk about single source of truth. If I start note-taking in Evernote and in Notion maybe a bit, and a bit in Roam, I think this won't work out. You have to settle on one tool that you use for a single purpose. Or maybe several purposes in one tool, but then stay in this tool and don't spread it all over the different tools. So now we come to task management. There was a lot about knowledge management. I think we just scratching the surface here. And it's really my goal as your coach in the Inner Circle membership to help you get the right setup for you. All right? I'm figuring this out for myself as well. But I have a completely different use case maybe for you. I'm an entrepreneur, I have my own business, I'm building up a team, but maybe you are working in a day job where you have to manage your own tasks. You don't care about project management maybe, but you need to be connected. You get all the tasks in a different tool and you have to manage this on your own. This is when we come to individual setups for your workflows, all right? And now we talk about task management. I just started to talk about this. You get tasks, all right? So you're in your day job and you get tasks on a daily basis maybe. And the worst is if you have different stakeholders, they all have the highest priority, obviously, and they think, okay, I can throw tasks at him, as many you want, or at her. And that's not the case, because a task list is infinite and a calendar is finite, and you really have to connect both. And that was my goal when I was looking for a task manager. And the best task manager for personal task management, in my opinion, is still Todoist. Todoist is the best personal task manager on this planet for my use case. Why? It integrates with so many different apps. It is accessible via web access. I can have it on all my different devices, and the integrations are really native integrations. One example, I'm using Gmail, and if somebody writes me an email that I should follow up on, of course I could snooze this email and follow up later, but I can also create easily a task out of it with the single click of a button, which is Todoist. So it integrates into Gmail. I click on Todoist, it will take the subject from this email, creates a task out of it, and then I pick up due date, I want to work on this request or whatever, and as soon as due date hits, I get this task inside Todoist. I click on the subject and the email opens that is related to this. Okay, so this is really so time saving, and I think many of you can relate to this. You say, okay, I will do this. I make a note of this. I will follow up on this later. And either you keep it in your inbox, or you marked it with a label or whatever to follow these things up, but you start searching for your emails. Here, I don't need to search. I click on it and the email opens, even if it was archived. So this is how I achieve inbox zero on a daily basis, because everything is processed, putting standards, conventions into place. Is it an email that I can't answer within 2 minutes? I will answer directly. Does it take longer than 2 minutes? It will become a task into Todoist, and so on. So everything gets processed directly, and I have a time block on my calendar to process this email. All right. Another thing why Todoist is the best personal task manager, in my opinion, is the integration, the two-way integration with my Google Calendar. But it also works with Outlook Calendar, I think. What this means is that as soon as I create a task with a due date and a time, it will make an event on my Google Calendar. And for many other task managers, you can set this up in automation software like Zapier and so on. But this is not as stable as in Todoist, because as it has a two-way synchronization, I can create a task in Todoist and it comes up in my calendar. What do I do in the morning? I go to my calendar, not into my task manager. I see in my calendar what I have to do today because I planned everything out already and blocked these spaces already. So this also means tasks need time. You need to block the time to work on your tasks. If your whole calendar fills up with meetings, you don't have time to work on your tasks. So you have to get to block your time on your calendar. And Todoist, with the two-way synchronization, does this automatically. And now the beauty is, as soon as I drag around the task on my calendar and I reorganize things, that's what I'm doing on my calendar. The time management is done on my calendar. And it syncs back to Todoist. Even if I change the subject on my calendar, it will be changed in Todoist. And now we come to project management. That's a level higher, and I think not many of you need this tool I'm using here, which is Asana. I'm actually a certified pro now by Asana because I'm such a big fan of this product, and I implemented it in so many different teams already and saw the success. And compared to other competitors, I think Asana is really the best all-in-one solution when you building up a business, because you have in there so many things that you can do on different levels, and it is really too complex to go into this right now in this video. All right. And I absolutely want to point out again, if you're a team manager and you're looking for a task manager or a project management tool, don't listen to the salesperson. First, sit down, think about what needs to be done. Do you need it cross-functional between different platforms? Write down your conventions, write down your workflows, what do you have in place, and then you start looking for the tool that fulfills these requests. Asana is really delivering a lot of different functionalities you might don't even need. Maybe Trello is enough for you and you only use the Kanban board style and that's it. You don't need a Gantt diagram and all this. This is really something we need to keep in mind. And also, I know many people, they are using Asana and they're using Asana as well for their personal task management. I can't do this. Asana is not good, in my opinion, for personal task management. You can work perfectly in a team, working together on these things and get things done. That's why I'm using Asana, but I'm not using it to go in there and look for up my different tasks. It is not as easy and intuitive as using Todoist. And talking about integrations, Asana has an integration into Gmail, but it is really slow. And I hate slow things. Why? Because it interrupts my creative process again. I'm in a flow with something, and if something takes too long, loading and things like this, it just interrupts consistently my workflow. That's why it's called workflow. All right, it should stay in a flow and not work stutter. Okay, that's what I just want to point out. But why, Tom? Why do you still use Asana then? I mean, you're just saying it is awesome, then you're complaining about this, and now you're saying again, there is not the all-in-one solution out there. And that's, I think, what you figured out by now in this video. There's not the all-in-one solution for all the different parts of productivity. And that's why I split these into different categories and why I put different tools into the different categories. I think that's really important to understand. And Asana does an awesome job when it comes to team management, project management, collaboration work, and all this. And I know what is coming on the roadmap for Asana, and I think this will just be awesome for the teamwork. But I want to stay organized. And I also want to give my team members the option to work on their own tools, because that's really the things when it becomes complicated. You start to implement a new tool, everybody has to work in there, but people are used to work on a paper sheet on a daily basis and write down the tasks there, or using Todoist, or using things and all these other task management tools. So you should find ways to integrate these. And this is why I think it's especially important to get a tool that is easy to integrate with other tools. And Asana is one of these tools where you can easily integrate Todoist. How? How do you integrate Todoist? And now we come to workflow automation, the fifth thing of productivity, what I call productivity in the paperless movement. Workflow automation is the thing that makes the working between the different apps and all the workflow much more efficient, which also increases productivity then. There's one tool that I use between Asana and Todoist that is called Plexi or Plexi, not sure with the two E's how you say it properly, but this is what I use to automate things. So what this does, it does essentially the same thing as I talked about before when I was talking about the Google Calendar and the Todoist synchronization. It has a two-way synchronization between Asana and Todoist. And this is awesome because I can choose certain projects or all projects and so on that should be synced back to Todoist. And Todoist, I have only one project that is called Paperless Movement, and everything my team is working on in Asana is and the task I have there will be synced back to the Paperless Movement project in Todoist. So this means only the task I have to work on, I know the deadline's coming and so on, will pop up in Todoist, and now you got it, also in my calendar. So this way I also build up a two-way synchronization between the Google Calendar and Asana. Isn't that awesome? I think that was for me really the missing piece to get everything together and work on a single source of truth. And now we are nearly on the end. I just want to mention two more things, which is the communication I do. There's also conventions in my business how I do communication, and I recommend this to all my clients as well. Use something for general chatting and brainstorming and so on, and have the project related and task related discussions directly on the task. So this means in Asana, for example, you can leave comments there and you can talk to each other about things. And then you talk exactly on this task about the task. If anything happens, you have status updates for the whole project and all this. These are the places where you discuss these things. If you have brainstorming, I'm using in my business, for example, Slack. Why Slack? Maybe you wonder, what does Slack do? It is just a list of different channels, and you can talk there and so on. We can do this via Skype or Hangouts and so on. The reason why I'm using Slack is it's my notification center. Okay, you can use Slack to integrate with nearly any app that you can imagine. And this means whenever I get a notice from my Paperless Movement membership, for example, or I get a request via my support system and all these, or I make a sell, I make a refund, all these information, the notifications that you usually get inside your inbox, in your email inbox, you can just bring into Slack, into different channels. And this is just easy to go there, and I see exactly what happened during the day because all the informations are sorted. I can do this in Gmail, for example, as well, building up the different labels or different sections and retarget these information into this different thing. There are different ways to do this, but Slack is really the communication center, and it's nice. I go there, I talk to my team members about general stuff, about, things that don't fit into any of the different projects, but I also see directly the notifications. I can just click on there, go to the notification or to the request I got there, and things like this. That's why I'm using Slack. And one bonus thing I just want to mention, and I think I forgot to mention several times already, but it is so powerful to use this, is Snagit. Snagit is a tool that I use for short screen recordings and print screens and explanations and things like this. I know you can do print screens easily with your Mac and with your Windows machine and so on, and Windows even has the snippet tool and all this, but Snagit has so much more to offer. Again, it is too much to dive deep into this, but it is the best screenshot making tool that you can have, in my opinion, because I make a screenshot, it opens up in the editor, I add an arrow there, explanations, what I have there, and boom, it just goes out there. I make a short screen recording, 2 clicks, I have a GIF animation out of this. I can add it to my website or to my Notion explanation. I can make a screen recording and I upload it to Screencast, which is a service they offer, like a cloud, where you can upload these snippets and send it to you. If you have a question, how does this work? I usually make a short screen recording and send it out there. That's it. So this is really the reason why I also recommend using Snagit if you're doing a lot of explanation and things like this, because there's nothing worse than having a lot of back and forth, try to explain things, make a video call, talk about this, share your screen, explain it, or use Snagit to make it much more direct and easier to explain than others. And in general, I'm using G Suite. I mentioned this before, so I'm using all the different tools in there, like G Docs, G Sheets, and so on. So Tom, why do you use G Sheets, for example? Again, integration is key. I can use G Sheets and integrate it with so many other tools. For example, if you get a notification in Slack, I can just make a list in G Sheet that automatically updates and all this. This is just going too far to go into what I can do there. I try my best to cover all this in Inner Circle. And if you are struggling with your things and you don't know how to set up your system and you really want to get it done properly, with a system in place where we work together, you have the option to reach out to me and get direct support from me. By simply joining the Inner Circle, you will have the option then to set up a call with me and talk about the struggles you're going through. We will talk about what conventions you have in place. Do you have any conventions? We can work out these conventions. And I think it's also the most important thing to have the forum there, because there's a lot of great feedback from the Inner Circle members about others having problems, all right? And then you have access to the different productivity guides that really get you started to work these out, and the webinars and the online courses and. But I think the most important thing being an Inner Circle member is the direct access to me, because I'm really keen to help you get things done and to set up your own productivity system 2020 or 2021 next year. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel to see you next time